I love Final Fantasy XII. It frequently appears in my discussions of best Final Fantasy games, and I consider it one of my personal favorites. Part of that is probably just because I love the Ivalice setting, but beyond that, I think it's just a great game that tells a good story very well. Plus, it features a unique and enjoyable take on the hybrid battle system. While I could dedicate an entire video to FF12, and maybe one day I will, right now I want to focus on one character, Vaan. Whenever I talk about 12, one thing that is always brought up is how Vaan is a disappointing protagonist, to put their words charitably. It's to the point where some people have told me Vaan ruins the game, to the extent that they can't enjoy the game at all, and as a result, they've never finished it. Usually I just concede the point, tell them to try and just ignore Vaan, which shouldn't be hard since their primary complaint is he doesn't do much. I've never felt that strongly negatively about Vaan myself, he was just kinda there. But then Eric Landon, my favorite JRPG tuber, seriously, I've discovered so many niche games through his channel I never would have heard of otherwise, put Vaan in the #1 spot of his list of top 10 worst JRPG protagonists. And I respect his opinions a lot, so this got me thinking, is Vaan actually a lot worse than I was giving him credit for? I really took some time to consider it, and the conclusion I came up with is that I don't think he's actually that bad, or really bad at all. I think his purpose as a protagonist is just really misunderstood. So hear me out for just a few minutes, and then afterwards, when you inevitably still disagree with me, feel free to voice your displeasure in the comments. I don't think I'm going to blow any minds when I say Vaan's primary role is to represent the commoner's perspective, specifically a commoner of Dalmasca. I think a lot of people mistake the idea of having a commoner as a main character as for them to be relatable enough for the player to insert themselves into, but I don't think that was the intention here. Vaan isn't some farm boy living on the outskirts of society who is just learning about the state of the world. He's grown up on the streets of Rabanastre, having been orphaned by the war, and doing what he has to in order to survive. He has a unique perspective of his own, one of the peasantry that has to live with the consequences of war. The setting and locations of FF12 are incredibly important to its storytelling, as at the end of the day, it's a story of politics and war. And Vaan is part of a class that is both overlooked and powerless in the scale of these events. That's reflected in how his character is treated when journeying with the rest of the party, particularly in the beginning. He's traveling with people with power over their own destiny in the Sky Pirates, and people with a power over others in the Princess and a high-ranking military officer, but most peasants don't have this kind of power, they're simply just having to try to live with the actions of those who do. Vaan isn't far over his head, it's just trying to keep up. He's an observer more than a direct actor. So when you say Vaan doesn't have a lot of impact in the course of the story, well, that's kind of the point. That's not to say Vaan isn't also used as a tool for lore to be fed to the players. It's fairly common for a protagonist to have a reason to not know common things that need to be explained to them, such as Luke from Tales of the Abyss, who has amnesia, or Faye from Xenogears, who has amnesia, or Terra from Final Fantasy VI, who has amnesia. Vaan has no formal education and no experience interacting with nobility or politicians beyond attempting to steal from them, so it makes sense that he knows less than the others. Though Vaan isn't completely unknowledgeable, his knowledge base just happens to be centered around what the peasants in Rabanastre would know. He even occasionally impresses the others with a little bit of Dalmascan history. What's actually kind of interesting is his info is heavily affected by the biases of his home nation, which sometimes means he's wrong about things, but by being wrong, we as the players are given some insight into the general sentiment in Dalmasca. Another example that gets brought up a lot when discussing why people don't like Vaan is that he wasn't originally planned as a protagonist, as earlier iterations of the storyboard had Ash or Bosch as the lead, and Vaan hadn't even existed then. But I don't think this is really relevant to the character. It's true you can look at a game's troubled development cycle for reasons why a game is broken or unfinished, but FF12 is neither of those things. Games, and stories in general, change as they are developed. Characters are added, removed, and changed. In an early draft of Final Fantasy XIII, Lightning was supposed to be a flirtatious character. When they decided to make her more serious, the developers changed Fang's character from a man to a woman and gave her some of Lightning's removed traits. Does this make Lightning a bad character? Okay. Well, some of you are going to say yes to that. Probably should have used a less controversial example. For what it's worth, I really like Lightning, but you get my point. The last thing that seems to really bother people about Vaan is he's so, well, ordinary when compared to the other Final Fantasy protagonists. That's true. He's not a former super soldier turned mercenary, he's not a chosen warrior of light, he's not even an arrogant sports star. He's just some guy. But in a way, how not special he is what makes him special. He goes from hunting rats in the sewers to keeping pace with some of the most talented warriors in the world. Driven mostly by his desire to find a better life and to protect his childhood friend, he goes toe-to-toe with elite judges, giant monsters, whatever the hell a demon wall is supposed to be. He deserves some credit for that. Everything else aside, when I was thinking this topic through, the question I kept coming back to focus on was, would Final Fantasy XII have been better if Vaan had not been in it and Ash had been the protagonist? And the answer I have for that is, I'm not sure. It might have been. All I know for sure is it would have been different. Instead of being the story of a peasant caught up in a world of events well beyond his control, it would have been the story of a princess trying to regain her throne, which could have also been good, but it's not the story the writers ended up wanting to tell. The story we got was pretty dang good. Is Vaan going to be joining my list of favorite JRPG protagonists? Well, no, not even close. But I will be removing him from my list of bad JRPG protagonists, because I just don't believe he belongs on there. He has a role to fill and fulfills it well enough, and he does nothing to deserve the level of hate he gets. Hopefully this has caused you to rethink your take on Vaan just a little bit. If not, well, you can just ignore him. Just give Final Fantasy XII another chance. I promise it's great. The superior Zodiac Age version, not the PS2 one. I only used the PS2 one on this video for the ease of capturing footage. Not that I made this entire video just as an excuse to push this game more. Just please like Final Fantasy XII, okay? Thank you for actually sitting through and watching my ramblings. Let me know in the comments if I changed your opinion on Vaan, or if there are any other characters whom you think get undeservedly bad raps. We've got more videos in the works, including more skits and top 10 lists, and should have more for you soon. See you then.